Some killers announce themselves with chaos. Albert Fish did not. He waited. He watched. And when he came, it was like a shadow stepping out of the rain, quiet, polite, and smiling. This is the story of a man who became known as the Gray Man, a man who carried death in his pocket and horror in his heart, a man who proved that sometimes evil doesn't shout, sometimes it whispers. Hamilton Howard Albert Fish was born in Washington, D.C. in 1870. His father was 75 years old, his mother unable to care for him. By the age of 5, Albert was abandoned to an orphanage. This was no sanctuary. It was a place where leather straps whistled through the air before biting into skin, where boys screamed, and those screams went unanswered. But Albert's screams were different. He later confessed, "I saw boys whipped until the blood ran down their legs, and I enjoyed it. I could not help it." Pain did not teach him fear. It taught him desire. When Albert grew up, he became small, wiry, unremarkable. You could pass him on the street and never turn your head. He wore faded suits, a felt hat pulled low, and a kind smile for anyone who met his gaze. Children called him the Gray Man. Neighbors thought him harmless, but behind his eyes there was a hunger he could never feed. Albert worked as a house painter, a job that took him from home to home, neighborhood to neighborhood. Everywhere he went, he watched. He learned voices, routines, vulnerabilities. And when he found one that suited him, he acted. He lured children with candy, errands, or simply his gentle, grandfatherly tone. They didn't know that inside his bag was not paintbrushes, but a cleaver, a handsaw, and a butcher's knife. The police would later call it his kit of horrors. Albert's crimes were not just about death. They were about suffering, about making it last. He once told police, "I always had a desire to inflict pain on others, and to have others inflict pain on me." He proved this on himself. When doctors x-rayed his pelvis, they found 29 sewing needles embedded deep in the flesh. They had been there for years. He put them there. It was not insanity that drove him. It was obsession. In May 1928, Albert answered a newspaper ad. A young man named Edward Budd was looking for work. Albert arrived at the Budd home, pretending to hire Edward for farm labor. But Albert's eyes fell on someone else, 10-year-old Grace Budd. He told the family there was a party for his niece that day. He asked if Grace could come. The Budds, seeing only a kindly old man, agreed. Grace left with him in her best white dress. She never came back. For 6 years, Grace's disappearance haunted her family. Then, in November 1934, a letter arrived at the Budd home. The words inside would become infamous in criminal history. This is what it said. "My dear Mrs. Budd, in 1894, a friend of mine took me to China. He told me about a famine there. Many boys and girls under 12 were sold to the butchers to be cut up and eaten. The flesh was stewed, roasted, boiled. The boys' behind, which is the sweetest part, was sold as veal. The little girls' parts were the best of all. In 1928, I called on you. I brought your little Grace to an empty house. I told her to remain quiet. She sat on my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her. I stripped her naked. She tried to run, but I held her fast. Then I cut her throat. and drank her blood. I cut her into small pieces so I could carry my meat to my rooms. I cooked and ate every part of her. How sweet and tender her little body was roasted in the oven. It took me 9 days to eat her entire body. The letter was signed simply, Albert Fish. The police traced the envelope back to a boarding house where Fish had been living. They arrested him without a fight. In custody, he was calm, polite, cooperative. He spoke about his crimes as if they were nothing more than hobbies. When asked why he did it, he answered, "I had my own idea of punishment. I do not know any better." Albert Fish stood trial in 1935. The jury took just 10 days to find him guilty. On January 16, 1936, he walked into the execution chamber at Sing Sing prison. Witnesses said he looked excited. The straps tightened around his small frame. The switch was thrown. It said the needles inside his body caused a short circuit. But in the end, the current took him. Albert Fish was gone. Some murderers leave blood. Albert Fish left shadows. He is remembered not just for the pain he caused, but for the way he wore it like a second skin. The polite smile, the soft voice, and the knowledge that monsters don't always roar. Sometimes they knock politely, tip their hat, and ask for your trust.